Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone, and I'm delighted to have with me Tim Kearny. Tim is the mayor of Swarthmore, and wow, he actually wants to be in the Pennsylvania Senate. Tim, what are you thinking?
A lot of people actually ask me that, Hugh. Well, first, welcome to Swarthmore.
Thank you.
Nice you to come.
Nice place you have here.
It is a nice place, and it's a place that I feel like I and my family have worked to help make an even better place. And I think that my experience over the last 23 years is something that I could actually bring to the state Senate.
Let's take it from the top. A week ago, I didn't know your name. As is so often the case for so many of us, we assume that local politics will handle itself, but it's not doing that anymore. So 6 days ago, I learned your first name. 5 days ago, I learned your last name. And a couple of days ago, we met for the first time. For those of us who don't know who you are, please tell us your story. How did you come out here? What did you do before you were mayor of Swarthmore? Lay it on us.
Well, I'm an architect. My wife and I came to Philadelphia to go to graduate school at Penn in the mid-'80s. And it's funny, we thought we'd move back to Washington, D.C., but Philadelphia has a way of getting under your skin, I think, and it really is it was a little rougher back then, but it's really a wonderful city, and we're really happy we stayed. When we lived in Mount Airy, when my wife got pregnant the first time because we wanted to get out of the center city and have a garden, and then when the kids got to be, when Lucia, our oldest, got to be 5, we really started looking around for a place, school district, really, for a place, because we really desperately wanted our kids to go to public school, and there were some issues with the particular public school that they would have gone to if we stayed in Mount Airy. So we looked for a long time, and we finally decided on Swarthmore. We thought Swarthmore was a college town. We liked the idea of that. We liked the sidewalks. We liked the trees. We liked the little downtown. We liked the feel of it. And soon after we got here, we realized that, like any place, and this is something that my grandmothers both told me, was that if you really want something, you have to be willing to work for it. So we understood that we needed to kind of roll up our sleeves and become active participants in the community of Swarthmore, which we did. And that led to various pro bono projects that we did. It led to us leaving the big firm that we worked for in the city, and because we wanted to spend more time with the kids and go to soccer games and track meets and all of those kinds of things. And so we opened up a little mom and pop architecture shop here on right on Park Avenue in downtown Swarthmore, and continued to do work on various boards and various organizations, everything from the Recreation Association to the Pool Club to the Claudia was on the Zoning Hearing Board for a long time, and then I ran the Planning Commission for many years.
The local planning commission.
Local planning commission.
Swarthmore.
So when the last mayor decided, Rick Lowe decided he wasn't going to run again, he called me up on the phone. He said, "Tim, this is something you should do." And I said, "Well, I mean, why would I want to be mayor? Mayor is like it's not a. I'm an architect. I'm busy trying to build things and trying to make things happen." And he said, "Well, that's kind of why, because you know how to build things, you know how to make things happen, and we need things to happen, and they're happening. So your skill set is ideal for shepherding these things through," which is what we did. I worked a lot with Leanne Kruger-Branicki, who's our state rep, who's wonderful. She's so competent at her job, and it's really amazing the work that she's doing in Harrisburg. And it's only through her that I really got to see kind of how the sausage gets made in Harrisburg.
And you want to be there.
Well, 10 or 15 years ago, I think I was like most people in that I didn't have a feel for, like, politicians in Harrisburg were kind of like those people.
Yeah.
You didn't have I didn't really have any kind of direct relationship with them, or understand really kind of what they do or what it really meant for me as a citizen. So Leanne really kind of opened my eyes to that whole thing. Not to say I was naive. I mean, I was politically active. I was involved. I mean, the first campaign I worked on was Allison Schwartz's back in the 90s. I really felt in talking to Leanne that this was something that she encouraged me to really consider it, because she said, "Look, the skills that you have as a mayor, don't downplay that. That's not insignificant. That really means something. And your abilities as an architect, where we talked about this, where you can keep the big picture in mind while sweating out the details at the same time. Those things are really important for a legislator to literally accomplish things. Because as an architect, I'm used to building things.
If you were to get the nomination, what makes you think that you could get anything done with your Republican colleagues?
The key to it really is changing the tenor of the conversation. And I realize that's a tall order because the conversation in politics,
pretty
the
polarized
national level and the Harrisburg has just been awful. But part of the things, literally in Harrisburg right now, the state Senate, for example, the Republicans have a supermajority, so they have a veto-proof majority. They're not really even interested in a conversation with Democrats because they don't need them to do anything. You know, they can pass all they want to pass without any Democrats. But if we take one seat, they lose the supermajority. You take 5 seats, and then all of a sudden it becomes something where the conversation has to occur. So with my life experiences and the things I've gone through, like building a major building, you work with people that you don't agree with all the time. And, you know, and a lot of it, money is at stake in a lot of it, you know, in terms of the decisions that get made on construction sites and as things get, you know, move forward and everything else. So I'm used to the sort of high pressure of that kind of decision-making process that needs to occur. But I'm also used to the idea of finding common ground with people and finding ways forward to kind of make things happen. That doesn't mean I'm willing to, you know, to give in or to compromise is a bad word, right?
It depends. It depends where the two sides start. If both sides start over here and you compromise a little bit, you still end up over here. So I think that's a big part of it. But tell me, Tim, what are your priorities? What do you want to accomplish if you're given that honor to serve the people?
Well, it will be an honor too, and I don't downplay that at all. My 3 biggest issues that I've been pushing, and it's 3 among many, but the 3 are really fair funding for education and education reform funding, the environment, and then a balanced and fair budget. And they're not independent of each other. They're all interwoven in terms of how they, the aspects of various things. I think that we need to impose a extraction tax on the gases coming out of the Marcellus Shale, just because. I mean, I would have loved it if we were been like New York and had banned it outright, but we didn't, and this is happening.
Is it?
Well,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about Mariner East and then come back to it.
Mariner 2 or Mariner East just strikes me as sort of like a perfect and horrific storm. The way it, beginning with the granting of a utility status to a for-profit company. Now, a lot of people think that, you know, they say, oh, it's Sunoco, so at least it's a Philadelphia or a Pennsylvania-based thing, but it's really not. I mean, the majority of it's now a Texas company that, you know, has this as a little piece. The fundamental idea that a for-profit company should be able to take natural resources out of the ground in Pennsylvania and put it in a pipeline in a very volatile and dangerous form, and then take it all the way to Marcus Hook and put it on ships and send it to Europe to sell for a profit. I don't see the social benefit to that.
You can argue that it is socializing the risk and privatizing the reward for what is ultimately one-time use plastics.
And it's also, that's very true, but it's also, you know, I talked before about how the politics are local. Well, the effects of these things are local too. So, you know, is it really better for our society if, you know, the majority of people don't have any contact at all, or they're not in the blast zone or whatever of these things, but we really ruin people's lives who, you know, invested everything in their homes and now have sinkholes in their backyard and other things. It's the pipeline people don't seem to be doing themselves any favor with their safety record or with the way, and I understand it's a difficult thing, but that's the sort of thing that needed to be assessed before it actually happened.
So what do you propose to do about that?
I'm pleased that the Delaware County Council has approved a third-party risk assessment to really finally, because you talked about the polar sides. We have 2 risk assessments in the books right now. One that was done by industry, and one that was done by the activists. So they're
I prefer to call them residents who are being affected.
Okay. No,
and it's interesting because I listen to you tell your story, and many of these residents fall into one of two camps. They're either young families who came to those neighborhoods for the same reason that you came to Swarthmore, or they're older people who have retired. This is their nest egg, and I've personally seen these people have their lives destroyed, houses that they cannot sell.
Months ago, I thought that they should probably just complete the pipeline. And now I'm really starting to believe that the whole thing should just be torn up and removed. And the company should try to fill the sinkholes and to restore people's property.
Well, they did try to fill the sinkholes with concrete on top of the Mariner East 1 pipeline. And the DEP said, actually, you're creating a catastrophic risk. And they stopped it temporarily. Well, so let me ask you this. Would you take the no fossil fuel pledge? No fossil fuel money for your campaign?
I signed that, I believe, 3 months ago. So that was...
Big up yourself.
It was that was a no-brainer for me. As a green architect, I've been a green architect for 35 years, and I understand what that can really do for us. I understand that we can have a vibrant energy economy in Pennsylvania that's based not in coal and not in gas, but based on the sun and based on wind. I mean, if you look at a place like Germany, where it's a much more densely populated area than we are, even in Pennsylvania, and they get all their energy right now is not from fossil fuels, or not at all.
Yeah.
And it's all gas, and it's all wind and solar.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and it's a good economy, and it's something we could actually have. I think it's really difficult, really hard to change people's. They get used to making money in a certain way, and they think it's always going to kind of continue. I mean, as an architect, when we design a building for the state right now, for example, early on in the process, if we plan to heat the building with anything but coal, we have to provide a letter explaining why we think that the building should not be heated with coal.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I mean, it's Pennsylvania. It's,
and to that point, we have some of the most gerrymandered districts, even after the recent decision. So my question to you is, how can you represent such a diverse set of communities?
The 26th goes from Willistown and Easttown in Chester County all the way across to Tenneco and the airport and in Delaware County, and has about every conceivable division that you can think of, both in socioeconomic terms. We have Upper Darby. Upper Darby, they speak something like 72 languages in the high school.
Wow.
Upper Darby. It's like, it's wonderful. I mean, it's really difficult and incredible because it's a sorely underfunded school system, because the state doesn't actually put the money that they should into paying for, constitutionally mandated, to pay for kids' educations. And I think that, I said this before, but I really do think it goes back to local issues. And people have their local issues, and you have to be, as a representative for them, you have to understand what they are. You have to talk to the people, and you have to represent them in certain ways. And you're going to represent different constituencies differently for what they kind of need, but always within the framework of my personal belief system. I mean, as a leader, you have to explain to people what you stand for and why you think you want to do these things, and why you should be the person that can represent them. And then we'll see how that goes. So things like gun control, for example. I don't talk about it a lot because to me it's a no-brainer. I mean, I understand hunting. I understand the cultural aspects of it. I understand. I'm not a big hunter myself. I mean, I've shot a gun before, but not for skeet shooting and things like that. That I think is all fine. An AR-15, a military-style weapon, seems to really only have one purpose to me, and that's to kill people.
Yeah, I can't imagine using a bump stock to go varmint hunting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not. We chuckle, but it's not really a laughing matter. It's, somehow, what I'm trying to get at is that there are priorities that people place on various things, and we can change that. And changing that's not going to be easy, but people need to kind of really look at the big picture again and see when we do one thing, we take things away from another. When we maximize profits for corporations, we take away from, kids who need textbooks.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things. And we need to change that conversation to a point where it's not, for example, the gun issues doesn't get all wrapped up in the patriotism and the flag and how, we're real Americans. And
they are actually two separate things. I agree.
And people, we hear a lot of talk about the founding fathers and the Constitution and all those other kinds of things. My take on it was a document that was meant to protect both the majority from the tyranny of a minority and the minorities from the tyranny of the majority. And those are the protections that the Constitution gives us. And I think we're messing with it dramatically right now.
Yeah.
Particularly with things like campaign financing, when the wealthiest people in the country have an oversized influence on how anything happens.
If you were to get the Democratic nomination, what makes you think that you'd beat the incumbent Republican?
There's an old saying in politics that timing beats talent every time, and we have good timing at this point. And we worked, and this is not just me, I say we, in terms of Democrats in Delaware County, worked really hard last year to get people out to vote. An example is Upper Darby, where we got almost 2,000 more people to vote in Upper Darby than did 4 years before. And the margin of victory for Kevin and Brian, who are now on county council, and for Mary and Joanne and Jerry, who are in the row offices, was about 2,500 votes.
Interesting.
So that's a concrete way you can look at it and see what that kind of effort, the get out the vote effort, can do. We're relatively close in terms of Democrats and Republicans in the district. There's a large number of independents that are in the district as well. So it's really a question of getting the word out to everybody and really getting people to understand the differences in approach between what the incumbent and his caucus are doing.
I've been a registered Republican. I've been a registered Democrat. Now you can probably just register me really angry. So I'm very interested in people who have the mindset, the temperament, and the skill to cut across party lines. It's something like Mariner East 2, as far as I'm concerned, is not a partisan issue. It is absolutely a bipartisan issue. Republican legislatures and governors and Democratic legislatures and governors, in my book, have both let the people of Pennsylvania down. In the closing minutes that we have together, we've tried to give you guys just a taste of who Tim is. Clearly, you have many more positions than the ones that we've covered. I've read them. If people want to learn more about you, if people want to help you, where should they go?
So the shorthand answer is timforpa.com. It's timforpa.com. On the website there, you'll see the positions we talked about. There's places to donate money because we still need to get our word out. We still need to pay for those annoying mail pieces and everything else that we need to do. We have volunteers who are working, doing phone banking for us or knocking on doors. We have a goal of 2,000 doors a weekend that we're doing, and we're doing what we can do in order to get the word out to move forward.
Well, Tim, I wish you the best of luck. Again, we've known each other for a week, but I think you could well represent the people of the district. So I hope that happens for you. Where are we? What is this place?
This is another great new addition to Swarthmore. That we're in Warehouse 3, which is in the warehouse district here in town. Because
we have this warehouse named Warehouse 3,
well, yeah,
which is not actually a warehouse.
Well, we're trying to make it. You call it the warehouse district with the hope of getting other things to kind of work.
The next Dumbo.
This is Rob Borgstrom's idea. He's a great guy here in town. It's an antique store by day, and you can see stuff changes all the time. And there's things from historically, like the Chester Bank and Savings Fund brass sign over there.
Oh yeah.
And just kind of wonderful stuff. 1 million license plates and old bicycles and everything else. But by night, this becomes a music venue. And they built a stage behind us, and
I'm sorry, I see a couple of Volkswagen Beetle trunk lids.
Yep, that's the
pretty
stage
cool.
lights. It's kind of it's a great thing. We have, but on pretty much every Saturday, Rob has a few bands in here. Some of them you've heard of. Blind Melon was rehearsing in here, getting ready for their reunion tour last week. We get people from Nashville who come up and play here. People from Philadelphia come down and play. My particular band that I run, the Swarthmore Ukulele Orchestra, or the Swookestra, we open this place up and we fit 16 people up on that little stage with, luckily ukuleles are small instruments. So it's.
I mean, the fact that you've got a ukulele orchestra is already impressive enough. Well, Tim,
more fun.
thanks for taking the time to sit down with me. It's really a pleasure. Guys, what can I say? Politics really is local. Let's go out and vote.